Oh, and before I get started, this is Eucalyptus viminalis, and I know this is 5 years old, and this is willow, and counting the rings I'd estimate this is about 8 or 9 years old. And as you can see, the eucalyptus might be a bit slower to start with, but they soon catch up, especially in terms of girth. Another thing I'd say is I haven't yet burnt willow as firewood. I have burnt eucalyptus and it is fantastic firewood. I cleared this area on the 1st of July, beginning of July. It's now the beginning of September, so a couple of months ago, in order to plant regnans, Eucalyptus regnans, Eucalyptus ovata, and over there I did do a little bit more clearing, though I didn't cut down any willow for coppice, to fill in a few losses of camphora and add to the camphora. They were hardy during the frosts at the end of 2022. And as you can see, despite the shade in this area at times, these regnans are really growing strongly. I'd say they've come up at least 30 centimetres in the last couple of months, and I probably planted them a couple of weeks later, so 6 weeks or so. And the ovata as well, fabulously healthy, really coming on strongly. Although what has been the biggest surprise is the incredible growth of new shoots from the willow. Just astonishing. Easily 60 centimetres, the best of these shoots, and pretty much every single willow that I chop down, in fact every single willow that I chop down, is sprouting vigorous new growth. In comparison, one of the gunnii in this gunnii hedge that I cut back has put out perhaps 30 centimetres of new growth, half that of the willow. There are a couple of really big caveats though. Those willows down there have been in the ground perhaps, well, since the house was built, say 15 years ago, whereas these gunnii have been in the ground here for around 5 years. Those willows 15 years plus, but also access to fabulous hydration, and also the soil down there is much better, very fertile and nutritious, whereas the gunnii here behind this wall is pretty much just rocks. When I was planting these, it was like, hey, wow, there's just a hole there. Also, they're much younger, as I say, so they don't have that really well established root system to suck up and drink up any hydration and nutrition that is in the ground. So it's hardly surprising that this gunnii, although it's putting out a really good healthy growth, is a long way behind. While I'm here, this is a piece of eucalyptus timber that I chucked here to see how quickly it would rot down without any treatment, and I'll make a video of that at some point in the future. Another comparison, these are Eucalyptus viminalis, and they readily coppice. They're prolific once they start going. And this is a casualty of storm bara that I cut back, but I left most of the stump. These, by casualty of storm bara, I mean that it blew over during storm bara, and what I'd say is, and now a year and a half on from storm bara, is that if a tree blows over quite severely, then I'm going to cut them down and replant, which I've done here, planting Eucalyptus globulus. Very like nitens, very fast growth rates, but can be coppiced. Why am I now implementing this once they're blown over, just replant policy? Well, this was a Eucalyptus viminalis that also got blown down after Storm Barra, and again initially I left quite a substantial amount of the top growth, and it was putting out prolific shoots, healthy shoots, and then all of a sudden it died back, and it died back, I would think, due to lack of hydration. Whereas a few of these have survived, and the ones that have survived I'm going to leave, and this one seems to have done particularly well, and it's easily put on a couple of meters growth in a year and a half. So yeah, definitely in favour of coppicing Viminalis, but as I say, a little bit of a caveat there in terms of they need to have good, strong, healthy roots in the ground. And as I said there about the difference between those gunnii and the willow down there, is the willow have had 15 odd years to develop a really strong, vigorous, supportive root system, so that when you do coppice them, then there's a lot of energy that can come out and provide the tree with the nutrients, hydration, everything it needs to grow healthily and vigorously. Initially there was a gunnii here which blew down during Storm Barra. It was well planted, but as you can see they tend to grow outwards towards the light here because the willows in the back shade them. And initially it did put out pretty reasonable new growth. However, the really dry spell we had during May, I think it was, this year, and it just shriveled up. So the roots couldn't feed the top growth with enough hydration to keep them moist and growing, and therefore the top growth couldn't feed the roots. So enough said on the if they blow over, just chop them and replant. So this gunnii I replanted at the same time or shortly after Storm Barra, and as you can see it's growing nicely. So which would I choose, willow or eucalyptus for coppice? That willow tree there, all those down the bank here, as with the ones down the bottom, I would imagine have been here since the house was built, 2008, so 15 years. I planted that Viminalis, these Viminalis, just before the beast from the east in 2018, so they're a tad over 5 years old, and they're already outpacing the willow. The gunnii and the nitens, 4 years old, and again they're outpacing the willow. The nitens can't be coppiced, but the gunnii can. Many varieties of eucalyptus can be coppiced. Amongst the hardiest of these is Perenniana. No issues at all standing up to the frost, the severe cold snap there at the end of 2022. Wind resilient as well, no wind burn, flourishing, thriving. They're 3 years in the ground and they're already as tall as those willow. So which would I choose, eucalyptus or willow? It's not really a straightforward question. There are at least 50 varieties of willow which are frost tolerant and wind resilient, Perennia being a prime example. What I'd say is that greenhouse gases are now having a bigger and bigger impact on the environment, and my personal feeling is that this is going to increase steadily and more noticeably during the next at least decade. So we're going to have more weather extremes, more dry months, more wet months, more cold months, more hot months, more windy months. So I guess if I had enough land to plant up a reasonable forest for coppice, firewood, wind protection for a property, then I'd probably plant a mixture. just thinking there in my head while I'm saying that, the one thing that eucalyptus have over willow in terms of, if you don't copse them and leave them to grow on, then many of the eucalyptus varieties provide very good constructional timber. Hope that helps. Good luck.